Casey, so there is something about all of this that you're really missing. Trash, you've worked at Netflix now since the Great Fall. Like, Trash joined and Netflix dropped by 60%. Effectively is what happened.
I feel like it was more.
That was Trash's
It might have
fault?
been 70%. Anyways.
They heard that he was coming.
Yeah, they heard that he was coming. He joins the company. Netflix went from
welcome,
690 to 170 or something like that. It was a disastrous moment for us.
Now,
anyway,
Trash,
so
do you have like a bunch of like stock from when you worked there that did Trash
I did everybody a
ruin
favor.
your retirement
he
savings?
did
Is that what
everybody a
happened?
favor. He helped people for a decade. So thank you, Trash, for that. Everybody.
Okay.
Good job, Trash.
You're welcome.
Everyone, give Trash a clap. This is why
Yep.
he's still at Netflix, even
Get
though
those
he's on this
options
podcast.
down so they can go back up.
Yes, exactly.
Got
There
it.
you go, Casey. Stonking right there. Anyway,
Trash
so
nailed it.
we've been at, like, you've worked on a product that's sensitive to any sort of code, right? Because the TV platform is just, it's a very hard platform. It's a much slower platform than everything else. Now, Trash, have you ever once heard anybody at all in any point in life ever talk about response times in frames?
No.
Yeah, Casey. So this is something that you might not know, but in the web world, nobody has ever once thought of something in terms of frames. I don't I like this is a
Really?
whole novel concept of you being
Well,
like,
unless you're doing, like, a
when
lot of
something
animations,
happens,
we'll
I
do
expect
FPS.
next monitor refresh rate something to happen. Like, no one's ever said that ever.
That would explain the disconnect probably, because to me, so I like, obviously I was raised, I don't know if that's the correct term.
To catch on fire?
So I was raised
Nice.
in the era of during the
Thanks,
the
BJ.
V blink. Yeah, RAZED.
Yeah, it was good, Prime. Nice vocabulary, buddy. Okay,
Very
Casey,
good.
continue on with saying something smart, please.
It's not smart. It's historical. What you normally would do, right, is you'd try to have it so that, you know, you update your stuff during the vertical blank of like a CRT, right? Like the scan line comes down, you update your stuff, and you come back around to the top, and you need to have everything done in that time, like for the next, right? So you're always, I mean, the phrase "racing the beam" like made it into the title of a book, I think, right? And that's what that was referring to. You're racing the beam, the actual like CRT like display beam, right? That the thing that excites the phosphorus on the screen of a cathode ray tube, right? And then went from there to like in sort of like the Carmack era of gaming, like when like the Quake engine kind of ushered in 3D and this sort of stuff in a big way. At that point, like I believe he had a thing, and I don't remember if this was like something that he said in like person that I remember him saying, or whether it was something that he posted in like a plan file. But I remember him being like, look, if you structure your update loop in one way, where you like do your rendering, where you issue your rendering, you update the world, do issue your rendering, and then process input, you lose a little bit of time because some of the input maybe you could have gotten a little bit like just before you were about to submit the render or something like there was a thing where he was talking about that, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I probably should always be very thoughtful of like, how can I make sure I get input as close as possible to submission so that I'm introducing the least, like the smallest amount of latency, especially if you have something like VSync on, where you're going to like, if you like processed input and then waited on VSync, then came around and did your render, now there's an even bigger gap between those things, right?
Hey, is that HTTP? Get that out of here. That's not how we order coffee. We order coffee via SSH, terminal.shop. Yeah, you want a real experience? You want real coffee? You want awesome subscriptions so you never have to remember again? Oh, you want exclusive blends with exclusive coffee and exclusive content? Then check out Cron. You don't know what SSH is? Well, maybe the coffee's not for you.
Terminal coffee in hand, living the dream.
I'm always used to thinking of it as frames. So input comes in on a frame, you should see it on the next frame. As close as I can make it. I don't want to be the weak link in that chain. I want it to be the TV that's screwing you, not me. So I've always thought of it that way. So I always think of it as FPS. And especially nowadays when like, you know, when I do ping times on like the network here, even on this crappy Comcast connection that I'm on, most network on modern broadband internet, the actual ping time out from the person to like a local, to something that's close to them is actually sub-monitor refresh. Like you can actually get a network packet to someone and back in less time than like a 60 hertz refresh. That's how good this stuff has gotten. You know, people on fiber are getting sub 1 millisecond ping times to things like the nearest Google node, right? It's incredible. And so nowadays, I just think everything should be thought that way. Like it's just look, the fastest we can, the reason to do it in frames is that's the fastest we can get something out to the user. Like what's the lowest amount of time this monitor can hit? That's what we should be shooting for. And sometimes it's unrealistic because it's like, okay, they're on like some north of 500 hertz monitor. The operation we're doing is too heavyweight, so we got to set a more conservative frame target. Totally fine. But I never think of it in terms of anything other than that because that's our limit. That's what I can give you the frames at.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we do, even in the web world, we do think about FPS, especially for like animated heavy websites. When you noticeably see like jank, it's like stuttering. That's typically when we'll actually take into account like FPS. But honestly, most apps like aren't really doing any animations. It's all just async CRUD apps just waiting for something, right? So it's a more of how long does it take to load, which we'll use time, like milliseconds, versus an FPS, because that just wouldn't make sense in that case for us.
A little TTFB? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, a
Trash?
little bit of that. A little bit of time to first byte. Yeah, a little bit of that.
I feel like that is sort of a separate thing, too, is like, you know, to me, the user should see the response instantaneously, even if the thing takes a little while. So, like, suppose I'm on some network and I'm like, look, it's AWS, so, you know, good luck getting this response back in less than 30 milliseconds. Because, like, even though the data center is like 2 milliseconds of hop away or something, as soon as it hits AWS, it's just grinds to a halt, right? And, like, that's been my experience. And it was like the time it takes light to get to the data center has nothing to do with how long it's going to take. They are just going to chew through those milliseconds doing whatever it is that they do with like their switching and, you know, virtual machine management or whatever it is. You know, I don't work there. I have no idea. So assuming that you're going to do that, you're like, look, we're not going to hit 60 hertz or 120 hertz because we know this thing's going to take like 40 milliseconds to get back from AWS. I still want to show the thing immediately. So like for the case of a run dialog, let's say for whatever reason I can't predict it. I don't know the user's going to do it. I have to fetch their run history from AWS for some reason because like it's a shared, it's like a synced run history across machines. I didn't know they were on this machine or so. I mean, I don't know how that doesn't make any sense. I should have sunk this ahead of time, but whatever. I would fire off that request, but display the run dialog on the next frame, right? Because I know that by the time they're actually able to hit the first key that I'll need to search that run dialog for, I probably will get at least some of that information back. And so I'm covering a little bit of that latency and giving the user the instant response that I want to give them, right? And then if you know, the response doesn't come back and they do hit a key and I'm sitting there and I'm like, AWS not loading, then I have to put up a little spinner or something, right? Just tell them like, look, AWS is dicking me here. So I get it. Like, you know, run history not available till AWS responds with the little thing. But, you know, that's just how I think about it. So, like, I'm not being disingenuous. That is literally how I think about it. And it pisses me off in games, too. Like, if I'm sitting there waiting for a loading screen, I'm like, guys, you obviously could have streamed this in. Like, why wasn't this already loaded? Like, what's going on? I get mad at that all the time. I'm just like, the goal should be 0 wait states for the user, pretty much ever.
So we've had a lot of arguments about this over the years. And
who? You and
my previous team. Shall we say? And so one of the big things was, what's worse, the initial loading or in-app loading? Like, which one actually makes a user more nuts? Which one's going to cause them to be more upset? Would you rather have a bunch of small distributed little loads throughout the app, or would you rather have a bigger initial load?
So in my mind, usually, so I would say that if I find myself in that literal position, then my answer would be, how often do they load this thing? But before finding myself in that position, I would have asked the question, are you sure? Are you sure that you couldn't find a way to make this work? Because a lot of times, if people are like, oh, we have no choice but this long initial load, I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you sure that you actually did everything you could to make that initial package you needed to get started as small as possible, right?
Well, I'm on team bigger load initially. That's
if the app is,
but obviously within a threshold.
If the app is loaded infrequently, then if you have to make that trade-off, I would say you do that. If the app is loaded all the time because you like typically load this thing, do a little tiny thing, and then close it, then you're kind of in this nasty situation where it's like, okay, well, I don't know, it's sort of just as bad, right? Yeah. Like, because, you know, so I would say I wouldn't think about those things as different. I would just say there's frequency of operation and cost of operation, and you're trying to minimize the total of those, right? The cost times the cost times the frequency. And so if the frequency of launching this app is very high and the frequency of things you do in the app is very low, then maybe it would make sense to actually try to minimize your app load time. But in general, I would say like 99% of the time when someone's like, oh, I needed to do X, so that's why there's a long load time here, I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, I can think of tons of ways that I could have not done it that way, right? Like, strip this out. Don't do it that way. Have a low-quality version of that thing you stream in first, right? Like, think mega texture, right? Or level of detail would be a better way to think of it, right? I know that I have something I can display for this thing. It may just not be the best looking version of that thing. So if I'm caught by surprise, I do that right away and then increase its resolution when I can, right? Things like this are you can typically do things to try and make sure that you're very responsive. And, you know, if you then decide like, okay, no, we can't do that because this thing has to be stayed pristinely, sure, you can always paint yourself into a corner where you absolutely have to do this thing, and then I agree you do, but I would make sure all those avenues are exhausted first, is I guess what I would say.
Yeah, we do have like some techniques that we coin call like progressive enhancement, which is
exactly
the shittiest thing. But if you have a good machine, then we'll slowly enhance your experience, right? Which I think is fair. But go ahead.
No, it's just to try and get that nice responsive feel, because, you know, and that's just because that's the way I like things. I like things to be very responsive. Maybe some people just don't care. They push the right button on something. You know, if you open up Netflix, you push the right button, it takes a while, kind of lagging, it goes, I'm like, that sucks. Like, someone should fix this, right? If someone else might be like, I don't know, it's fine. Right? And so it really depends on who you're talking to, probably what their preference is on those two things, right? I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, you know, some people might be fine with that and some people might not be.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to... Everyone has a different threshold on what they're willing to tolerate, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard. Like, who do you optimize for? Like, there's nothing I hate worse. I would hate to have a quick experience, like load, or like a quick loading experience, but then every time I click something, it's like,
exactly.
Now we gotta... Now that thing is... I think that's, like, significantly worse, in my opinion.
Because the clicking is more frequent, right? That's what I say. Like, it's frequency versus cost. If you're going to click 100 times in this thing but only load it once, you don't want the 100 things to each take the long time and the one thing to be fast, right? That's not helping anybody, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
That's what all my banking software looks like. I got open my banking dashboard. It's just like 20 spinners, and then I click something else, and it's like 40 more spinners. I'm like, who's making these banking apps? It's insane.
It's also
Trash has just got so many zeros in his. You know, it's just such a full bank account. They're spinning forever to figure out what's in his account.
Progressive
so many
zeros getting added to Trash's bank account. It's like
oh my goodness, we have to widen this div. It's crazy.
If I had that many zeros, I would not be on this podcast. You know what I'm saying?
What?
I'd be traveling around the world.
That doesn't even make sense, Trash.
It doesn't.
You're not working right now.
Here's the thing: the wall of Pokemon would be bigger.
Well, I wouldn't be working either. I'd be traveling.
That's what I'm saying. Aren't you having fun hanging out with us? Wouldn't you still be on the pod?
Yeah, Trash. Trash. You're not paid to be on this podcast. What do you mean? I thought you did it for the love of the game,
whatever. I said what I said. I don't care.
Red button, blue button. I don't know.
I don't even care.